Islam, family. All praises are due to Allah. Of course, Sister Zenobia, Sahaddin Ali Il's demonstration on the importance of developing our children and instilling in our children the values that are needed for them to become better people and for them to understand the value of themselves and for them not to be subjected to the follies of their parents as well as the follies of the cares of the world and their surroundings. It's important, we as Moorish American Muslims, that we raise our children so that they may pursue the righteous path, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, that they may be on the path of righteousness, doing the things that are right, so they can influence others as well. And let's also keep in mind that we are children. We are children of the Most High Allah, as well as children of our Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, because he's the one that is raising us up, and that is teaching us, how to be the masterminds that we are. Islam. So we're going to talk about this pamphlet here, and we're also going to talk about the spirit of man, the importance of the spirit of man, if you will. Islam. Nationality is defined as that quality of character which arises from a person belonging to a nation or a state. That comes from Black's Law's Dictionary, I believe, 13th edition. We in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we are told by Prophet Noble Drew Ali to teach our people their nationality. We are instructed, simply put, to teach them how to be citizens. That is a phrase that I use quite often because a person with a nationality demonstrates the characteristics of a citizen, demonstrates the characteristic of those who are adherent to universal laws that are also manifested to the laws of the land, the laws that they have established themselves. I mentioned to a brother that I was building with earlier this week that one of the significant things that defines a nation, a group of people, is their constitution. Something that, a document, a binding contract, a covenant, if you will. That is very important because a nation needs something to bind themselves to, a group of people. One cannot consider themselves to be a nation if you have nothing to bound yourself to, a set of rules and regulations, virtues, principles, so on and so forth. So if there's a disagreement, Allah forbid, then we can always defer to those qualities, to those principles, to those virtues, and we should be able to resolve whatever issue that we have. Islam? So when we talk about that quality of character, we're talking about a set of virtues that significantly are associated with being a Moorish American. Islam? So when we are introduced to the Moorish Science Temple of America and this Moorish Divine and National Movement, one of the first things that we receive is this pamphlet right here, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, also known abroad as the Circle 7. And this pamphlet is an instructional manual. This pamphlet, in part, teaches us the degrees of civility, the degrees of nationality. All right. So again, I want to keep it as simple as possible. So when we talk about nationality, again, we're talking about a group of people that adhere to a certain quality of characteristics, a certain set of virtues. So this Moorish Holy Quran, this Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, they hold the principles needed that defines our nationality. All right? So Another thing that our prophet has instructed us to do is we have to teach our nationality, set apart from, in addition to teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. We are instructed to teach those people that, or to teach our people rather, who we are. And in order for us to teach our people who we are, we must know who we are. Islam.
Islam.
Because that, again, simply put, that is the plight of the descendants of Africans born in America, is that we have an identity crisis. We look to nations that have already established virtues and principles. We look to them, and truth be told, they hold a piece of who we are, but they don't solely encompass who we are. Islam, does that make sense what I'm saying? All right. So, again, all praises are due to Allah for our prophet for giving us the principles and the characteristics and the qualities of the Moorish Americans.
That's right.
That we can learn how to be ourselves. As a matter of fact, that harkens to our Quran questions, which reads, how did Noble Ali begin to teach the Moorish, begin to uplift fallen humanity?
That's right.
By teaching us to be ourselves. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But it's very important that we know without a shadow of a doubt who we are, so that no one will be in a position to define us.
That's right.
Because again, that in turn is a form of slavery. And when someone has the ability to define who you are, that means you don't have any control of who you are.
That's right.
Islam? So, you know, I wanted to start off with that introduction because I want to go into page 3, or the introductory page of our Moorish Holy Quran, and I want to read it in part. And it says, "Know thyself and thy Father God Allah." We just touched bases on that, and it says the genealogy of Jesus, with 18 years of the events, life works, and teachings in India, Europe, and Africa. These events occurred before he was 30 years of age. These secret lessons are for all of those who love Jesus and desire to know about his life works and teachings. Islam? Another name for justice within the Moorish American community, or another name for Jesus in the Moorish American community, is justice. And we know that justice, simply put, is the cause and the effect of the cause. In this particular case, we're talking about a time period where the children of Allah, the children of the great God Allah, has suffered many times over, and they needed to be redeemed. And so it reads in the prophet's divine warning, when love, truth, peace, freedom, do not take its course, or fail to be demonstrated, justice must take its course.
That's right.
All right. So in other words, when all of these principles are violated, then it has to be a reset. It has to come a point where something has to manifest to set things straight. Right. You know, when we talk about things scientifically, we talk about, or most scientists would consider that to be a quote-unquote anomaly. Islam? But we know that the great God Allah is all-encompassing. So even though these so-called anomalies come into place, these are elements that are put in place in universal law and universal nature to set things back on the correct path. Islam?
That's right.
All right? So when we look at the concept of Jesus, when we look at the concept of justice, we're looking at someone that's coming in to redeem our people and show our people the right way. When we speak of our prophet, Noble Ali, we're speaking of a person that has come to the Asiatics, to the people of African descent on the shores of America to redeem them. to redeem us internally and externally. Again, so in order for us to be redeemed externally, we must look within ourselves internally and see what's going on with us.
Right.
We must remove the elements of European psychology, those things that are not, those principles, those characteristics, those qualities that are not within our best interest. And we need to replace them with the principles that were given to us by a prophet. Islam? So, it reads on by saying, dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. Dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones, that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons you can set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. Islam? And that goes back to our demonstration by our sister Zenobia just a while ago, where it's important for us to take these lessons that were given to us by our Prophet Noble Drew Ali and share them with our children. It's important that we make it a part of every part. That it's in our daily lives. From when they wake up in the morning and say all praises are due to Allah, from when they go to sleep or slumber and they say all praises are due to Allah. Islam? It's important that we use these lessons. We cannot just read these, we cannot just think, or we cannot presume that this Moorish Holy Quran is just a bunch of philosophical rhetoric. Islam? Especially when it comes to the teachings of Jesus. All right? Because when we look at the teachings of Jesus, it says in the beginning of this intro page, if you will, it says the life, works, and teachings of Jesus in India, Europe, and Africa. All right? And as I mentioned before, we as Asiatics, as Africans, descendants of Africans born in America, we are facing an identity crisis. And we have to salvage, if you will, the teachings of our forefathers. So that we can establish who we are in this contemporary age. And like I said, when we look at the life works of Jesus, he had to get those degrees, if you will. He had to get those elements and those characteristics. He couldn't just get them in Bethlehem. He had to go to India. He had to go to Europe. He had to go to Africa. Because in those travels, in his journey, in his trek, he saw elements that will cultivate him as a prophet, that will cultivate him as love made manifest. So he took those elements and he made them his own. And he was able to teach that based on where he was born. Islam? So, again, we should look to the teachings of Jesus in a full circle. How did he learn these things? How did he apply these lessons? Islam? I want us to turn to chapter 8. Because I said the first part, we were going to talk about the importance of this Moorish Holy Quran. And then the second part, we were going to talk about the importance of the Spirit. Islam? So again, when we look at this Moorish Holy Quran and we begin to read this Moorish Holy Quran, we begin to study this Moorish Holy Quran, Jesus is initiated in the degrees of Judaism, in degrees of Hinduism, in degrees of Kemet or Egypt, in the degrees of Confucius, in the degrees of Buddha, in the degrees of our ancestors of Canaan in the early stages of Al-Islam, if you will. All of this, if you continue to study and unfold, they are within this book. And Jesus takes you through this journey. You see the lessons through the eyes of Jesus. If you know Islam. Earlier this week, myself, or Sheik Rashid ibn and myself, we were talking about the hero's journey. All of us, in some shape or form, are familiar with writing, with literary writing, the story of the hero, the journey of the hero. All right, and the most important part of the journey of the hero is the fact that he gains wisdom, and upon gaining that wisdom, he develops who he is as the hero. All right. When we go back to the classical tales of Hercules or Heracles, if you will, Hercules gets his knowledge from Athena,
Right.
the wisdom. When we go to the tale of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, he gets his wisdom from Ishtar and from the god Il, Baal. Islam. When we go to the modern day, when we go to the movies like The Matrix, the main character Neo, he gets his wisdom through Morpheus. Islam. All right. And with that, he takes that wisdom and he has to go through trial and error. But ultimately, it comes back to the wisdom that his sage or his teacher had taught him, and it is actualized when he's able to apply it, or rather, it is applied when he's able to actualize it. Islam. You know, when he realizes that, you know, I can't just know about it, I have to be it.
That's right.
You know, one more analogy, if you will, when we look at the Karate Kid, both the Ralph Macchio version and the Jaden Smith version, when they want to learn kung fu from Mr. Miyagi, Jackie Chan, they give them the knowledge not directly, but indirectly. He tells them that he must wax on, wax off, or he tells them that he must how to properly put his coat on the coat hanger.
Right.
And then again, that's the demonstration of the wisdom that our elders and our sages are giving us. And the hero, he neglects it because he doesn't see it as a direct relative to what he's doing.
Right.
You know. But then when he realizes that the wisdom is not just the literature or the concept or the theory, but it's the way of life. That's when he begins to unfold and become a master. And that is the hero's journey, if you will, Islam. All right? The hero's journey is when you have come into full circle, knowing that you must be the message that you bring. Islam? So that is the importance of this Moorish Holy Quran. That is the importance of the teachings of Jesus. It's not just to reiterate the importance of the Piscean text or the Bible, but it's to tell you that this is how the Jesus that we came to know through the Piscean text, through the Bible, if you will, this is how he gained his knowledge.
Right.
By way of Allah. Islam? So, we're going to go into the spirit, because it's one thing, or I should say the important part of applying it is having the spirit to do so. Having that holy breath, having that zeal to do so, if you will. Islam? So, we're going to go read chapter 8. Jesus reveals to the people of their sinful ways. It reads, in all the cities of Arisa, Jesus taught. At Katak, by the riverside, he taught, and thousands of the people followed him. Islam? Yeah, right. Everybody get this? I want to ask. I want to make sure I ask. Now, Arisa and Katak, or Kata, are known in ancient times as Odisha and Kata. All right? Odisha and Kata are both ancient cities. Well, Odisha or Orissa is an ancient city in India. And Kata is one of the provinces in Orissa or Odisha. Islam? The name Orissa or Odisha is so old that at this time it has not been clearly defined on the meaning behind it. And of course it comes from Sanskrit. But interestingly enough, when we talk about Katak, or this providence on Odisha, it translates as fortress. Because if we research the city of Odisha or Orissa, we can see that it's located on the shores of India. So in other words, you had to have a flanking fortress or some type of military base to protect the people.
That's right.
Islam?
Islam, Sheikh.
So Jesus was visiting that area. Islam? Military establishment. And it goes on by reading, going on to verse 2, it says, one day a car of Jagannath was hauled along by scores of frenzied men. And Jesus said, behold, a form without a spirit passes, a body with no soul, a temple with no altar fires. Islam?
Islam.
All right. So let me write another word on here. We have please pardon the spelling. If I have it wrong, make sure. Do it like this. Pardon the spelling. I don't think I spelled it correctly, but
It's 1G.
it's 1G?
Yes.
It is 1G? There's a 1G and 1 N?
1G, 1N.
Okay, praise the Lord. So, Jagannath means master. Master of the world. Master of the universe. All right? Jagannath is translated, if you will, as one of the representatives of Vishnu. All right? And we're going to go into Vishnu in a moment. But basically what is being said here in this short period, it says that Jesus is observing a cart of one of the avatars of Vishnu, Jagannath, and it's carried or hauled by scores of frenzied men.
That's right, Sheikh. That's what the record said.
So when we talk about somebody that's in a frenzy, we're talking about somebody that's out of control. We're talking about somebody that doesn't have a foundation or a footing, that doesn't have any principles. We're talking about someone who doesn't have character. We're talking about someone or a group of people that are just everywhere. They're ambiguous. They're frenzied. You know? And Jesus says, behold, a form without a spirit passes, a body with no soul, a temple with no altar fire. So then we begin to know that this particular instruction, if you will, is talking about the importance of the Spirit, and the Spirit being able to carry the words of Allah and to be sincere in the words of Allah. Because we can't carry, we can't represent something and not have the Spirit to promote it.
That's right.
Islam?
That's Islam,
All right? You know, in other words, I don't know if you all, well, I can only speak for myself. I'm speaking for myself. Back in the day, I used to work in sales, and it was kind of difficult to demonstrate something or to sell something that you didn't believe in. All right? But when we talk about this prophet and this divine and national movement, you know, I can feel that.
right.
Therefore, I develop a strong spirit. That spirit is revealed. That light is revealed, Islam. Therefore, I can speak it with compassion. I can speak it with conviction. You know, I can speak with it with sincerity. In other words, you can feel the joy and bear witness to the importance of this Moorish divine and national movement. Islam. But if, as I mentioned, I believe last Holy Day, when we talk about the 8 noble truths, if you don't speak with the right spirit or the right zeal, it will be for naught. Islam? Verse 4 says, this car of Krishna is an empty thing. For Krishna is not there. All right? So, Krishna, when we talk about, well, in this chapter, there's a degree in Hinduism. It reads in our chapter of the Moorish Holy Quran, the Parabrahms, although you Hindus call him Parabrahm.
Right.
All right? And when we talk about Parabrahm, we're talking about the highest father, Islam. So we're not just talking about Brahm. That word para, from Parabrahm, if I didn't please.
That's right.
Para is high, the high father, or the great God Allah. Islam? All right? So, we're getting the degree of Parabrahm. We're getting the degree of the Brahmins. Now, contrary to popular belief, there is a set of deities. We have, well, with Parabrahm is separated, if you will, or is venerated into two parts, two familiar parts. We have Shiva, and then we have Vishnu.
Right.
Islam? Shiva represents destruction. So they say. Now, when we talk about destruction, we have to look at it not in the eyes of the European,
That's right.
or in the European paradigm, or the European psychology. We have to look at it in the paradigm or the psychology or the thoughts of our forefathers, of our Asiatic forefathers. You know, when we talk about something that is destructive, we're talking about things that are of the lower self. We're talking about the things that are going to pass away. We're talking about the things that are illusions. All right? We're talking about the elements that we know are here for our sustenance, but will eventually pass away, and thus we must not be too attached to it. Islam? We must not be attached to it at all. And then when we talk about this concept of destruction, we have to look at what is the universal, or how does the universe operate? Out of quote unquote destruction comes life. Out of it comes life.
That's right.
From naught comes all. All right. So that's the degrees of our forefathers. And in this, there's a lesson for you, because if we're given a degree of Shiva, if we're given a degree of destruction, then we have to study this degree of destruction, because what are we looking to destroy? We're looking to destroy the concept of the Negro. We're looking to destroy the concept of the quote-unquote African American, the black and colored.
That's right.
Islam? So in order for us to remove that, we have to destroy it. Islam? It has to come to pass. Islam? And then, you know, I would liken this to, we would say that, again, the lower self. And then we have Vishnu, of course, that represents compassion. Oh, well, I can go into that. So when we represent compassion, and in our chapter 2 of our Moorish Holy Quran, you know, compassion, so another word for compassion is love. But our prophet says, before love before love comes, purity must pave the way. So I would even go as far as to say that demonstration of that concept of Shiva is also that demonstration of purity. Islam. So when we have that, we have compassion, or we are the highest self. We have love made manifest. Now, to keep this in and consistency with the chapter. One, when we talk about Vishnu, Vishnu has, or it is said that Vishnu has 10 avatars, or 10 incarnations on the plane of manifest. And the most significant, if you will, would be the avatar of Krishna. Krishna, again, is the most significant. The meaning of Krishna, figuratively, they say he's the black one. But literally, he's also, he is, the meaning of Krishna is the unknown. And if we able to think back to that concept, when we look at the Egyptian or the Kemetic god, Amun, he's also known as the hidden one, or the unknown, also known as Moor. Islam?
Islam.
So in that, there's a lesson for you, only if you do Islam. But the whole concept of Krishna is that he's love made manifest. He's unseen because he's everywhere. But he's everything. He encompasses everything. Everything that is of the higher self, everything that creates is a demonstration of love. Therefore, he is everywhere. So how can you have a representation of Krishna and not, or how can you have a representation of Krishna and Krishna not be in that shell? Not be in that car? There's something wrong. Something wrong in that picture. But Jesus goes on by saying in verse 5, this car is but an idol of people that is drunk on wine and carnal things. Islam? So in other words, the idol of Krishna, the car of Krishna is being abused. He's being abused and taken for granted of. And I can associate that in part with some of our brothers and sisters that are not using the lessons of our prophet or taking advantage of the lessons of our prophet. They are using it for idle gain. Islam? They're using it to uplift themselves and not others. So in turn, you're hurting yourself and your loved ones. Islam? It goes on by saying, Allah lives not in the noise of tongues. There is no way to him from any idle shrine. So in other words, you cannot just speak these words. You have to live them. The sister says, Sister Nobia said in her demonstration earlier that we cannot just go by the affirmation, do what I say, not as I do. You must not only do as I say, but do as I do.
That's right.
Islam? Allah's meeting place with man is in the heart. And in a small, still voice, he speaks, and he who hears is still. Islam? So again, we're talking about the spirit. We are made up of mind, body, soul, and spirit. Islam? So these things, when we engage in the affairs of men, we have to actually work in conjunction. These elements have to be, these gears have to be turning at the same time. It's like a clock. It's like a grandfather clock, if you will. If one of the gears are off, your whole time is off. Islam? But it's important for us to listen to that small spirit. It's important for us to listen to Allah. Some people will call it your first mind. Some people will call it your third eye. But we have to listen to that spirit. We have to listen to that element of Allah that speaks within us, that is compelling us to go the righteous path, that is compelling us to do the things that are manifestations of justice. Islam?
Islam, Sheikh.
Islam.
And all the people said, teach us to know the Holy One who speaks within the heart, Allah of the still small voice. So again, that goes back into our Act 6 and our responsibilities as Moorish American, teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed,
Islam.
so they can know the Holy One that speaks in the heart. Islam?
Islam.
And Jesus said, the holy breath cannot be seen with mortal eyes, nor can men see the spirits of the Holy One. Now, does that take away the importance or the significance just because you can't see it? Or can you see it? That's the question. How are we looking at it? Once again, are we looking at it from the eyes of the European? Are we looking at it from the paradigm of the European? Or are we looking at it through the paradigm and the thoughts and the psychologies of our forefathers?
That's right.
Because I see the spirit in each and every one of you.
Yes,
I
sir.
see the spirit of Allah within each and every one of you.
Islam.
And your thoughts, your works, or your thoughts and your words and your deeds. Islam?
Islam.
Islam.
So we can see the spirit of Allah is more than prevalent, it's vibrant. Islam?
Islam.
But in their image, we're on verse 10. In their image, man was made, and he who looks into the face of man looks into the image of the Allah who speaks within.
Islam.
And when man honors man, he honors Allah. And what man does for man, he does for Allah.
Islam.
Islam?
Islam, Sheikh.
And you must bear in mind that when man harms man in thought, word, or deed another man, he does wrong to Allah. Islam?
Islam.
Let me say that again.
Say it again, Sheikh.
And you must bear in mind when man harms in thought or word or deed another man, he does wrong to Allah. Islam?
Islam.
Islam.
13. If you would serve the Allah who speaks within the heart, you must serve your near of kin and those who are no kin, the stranger at your gates, the foe who seeks to do you harm. How about that?
Come on, Sheikh.
Islam.
How do we do that? How do we implement that? That is the question.
Yes, sir.
Because when we out here in the cares of the world, some would be led to believe that we have more enemies than friends. But you know what? Again, that is the way of the world, contrary to popular belief. That's why we have treaties. That's why we have alliances. That's why we have rules, checks and balances, rules of engagement. Because if there is a way that we can pose as a value to another group of people, then we have instilled a value within ourselves.
Islam.
That's right.
I
Islam.
always ask the question, if we in the condition and the state that we're in right now, Allah forbid, if we were to be removed from this manifest, would the world operate without us? Would the world be able to operate without us? Versus the Japanese, or I dare say the European. How would we operate if the European was removed from this manifest, from this plane of manifest? You know, will we be able to produce our own vehicles? Will we be able to produce the things that will provide for us prosperity and enjoyment? That is the question. So, if we're not able to answer that question genuinely, if the only thing we can think of is music and physical and athletics, then we have a lot of work to do, family. Islam? To assist the poor and help the weak, Do harm to none and covet what is not yours. Then with your tongue the Holy One will speak, and he will smile behind your tears and will light your countenance with joy and fill your hearts with peace. In other words, he will make you happy. He will bring you joy. There's a chapter in the Moorish Holy Quran entitled The Instructions for Justice. And within that, you actually get a portion of these holy instructions in this early on in this chapter. When he talks about if you will serve Allah who speaks within the heart, serve your near of kin, those who are no kin, the stranger at your gates, the foe that seeks to do you harm. And then it goes on by saying, assist the poor and help the weak, do harm to none, and covet not what is yours. Those are the degrees of justice. Because with that, you reap what you sow.
That's awesome.
So when we talk about justice, we're not just talking about, retribution from what's being done to us. We're talking about how are we to engage with each other so we can get out what we put in.
Right.
Islam? We're on 16. And then the people asked, to whom shall we bring gifts? Where shall we offer sacrifice? And Jesus said, our Father, Allah, asks not for needless waste of plant, grain, of dove, of lamb. That which you burn on any shrine you throw away. No blessings can attend the one who takes the food from hungry mouths to be destroyed by fire. Islam? Now, let's just talk briefly about this art of sacrifice. All right? Now, when we talk about sacrifice, we have to keep in mind it's not what you sacrifice. It's the intent. What am I saying? The prophet said, and I'm paraphrasing, that you will sacrifice your very life for the prophet, for this movement. Islam? So with that, there's a sincerity. You are willing to sacrifice, to give up your very essence for that which you believe in. That is a demonstration of justice. That is a demonstration of righteousness. That is, in turn, that is a hero's journey. That is the element of the hero's journey. How many of them, when we think about in the stories of the hero, from the Iliad all the way up to the Matrix that I mentioned earlier, how many of them, the heroes, demonstrated a form of sacrifice? Islam?
Islam.
And with that, he was enlightened. All right? When we talk about the sacrifice, we're talking about what is it that you're a part of yourself? What part of yourself are you willing to give for the sake of others?
Islam.
So in other words, the art of the sacrifice is the degree of selflessness. Islam? Are y'all understand what I'm saying? All right? Because it's one thing to sacrifice trivial things. But is that a part of yourself? Or is that a representation? Oh, Allah, I really don't want to sacrifice, my time or my efforts. So, I'm going to just go ahead and break you off a piece of this right here. And, I got several of it, but, I'm just going to give you a part of that. I'm going to give you a portion of it. It's not even a tenth in certain cases.
That's right.
But the prophecy, Jesus says, the idle things, the trivial things that you sacrifice, you can use that to assist those that are in need.
There you go. Islam.
Going back to what we spoke about in Eid al-Adha, when Prophet Abraham was instructed to sacrifice his firstborn. The lesson wasn't in the sacrifice, but it was the lesson, or the art of the sacrifice is what is it that he was willing to give? What part of himself was he willing to give for Allah? Islam? And with that, we know that you have a loyal. You have a loyal person.
That's right.
That is when he became Abraham, not just Abram. Islam?
Islam.
He became a friend of Allah. Islam.
Islam.
Became a servant of Allah. Because he was willing to sacrifice a part of himself for a higher purpose.
Islam.
We as Moorish Americans, we have to think about that. Are we willing to sacrifice a part of ourselves, a part of our time, a part of our livelihood for this movement?
Islam.
With sincerity. Islam?
Islam, Sheik.
We're on 18. That which you burn on any shrine you throw away. No blessings can attend the one who takes the food from the hungry mouths to be destroyed by fire. When you offer sacrifice unto Allah, just take your gift of grain or meat and lay it to the table of the poor. Islam?
Islam.
Islam.
Again, there's a lesson for you in the degree of justice. Because when you take a portion and you give it to those who are in need, you're uplifting fallen humanity.
Islam.
So who knows what blessing that you may have bestowed upon that person to set them aright.
Islam.
And you don't know how that may be reciprocated to you. Islam?
Islam.
20. From it an incense will arise to heaven, which will return to you with blessedness. Now that's an interesting word, incense. You know, because the prophet could have said any other word. He said, from it an incense will arise to heaven, which will return to you with blessedness. When we talk about the definition of incense, we know that it's a long stick that has an aroma to it, and you burn it, the smoke goes up, so on and so forth. But when we talk about the purpose of it, we're talking about the representation of the spirit going up to the Most High. So in other words, he's saying, from that you will reach a level of your higher self. You will be in your higher self. So in other words, he's using this concept of an incense as an allegory for your higher self. So you will reach your higher self when you perform these acts of justice. Islam?
Islam.
Are y'all with me?
Islam.
So he says, and in addition to that, we talk about fire. So again, we're talking about the spirit. We're talking about that holy zeal.
Islam.
It says in the Passean text, you're either hot or cold for Allah.
Islam.
All right? So again, there's always an analogy, an association with fire when we talk about that spirit. Islam?
Islam.
Islam.
Tear down your idols. We're on 21. Tear down your idols. They can hear you not. Turn all your sacrificial altars into fuel for the flames. Again, we're talking about this fire. Make human hearts your altars and burn your sacrifices with the fire of love. Islam?
Islam.
So again, we're talking about that fire. We're talking about that flame. We're talking about that altar of Krishna that is beginning to develop an altar fire. Islam?
Islam.
Islam.
And all the people were entranced and would have worshipped Jesus as a god. But Jesus said, I am your brother, man, just come to show the way to Allah. You shall not worship man. Praise Allah, the Holy One.
Islam.
Islam family?
Islam, Sheik.
Truly, Allah speaks through his holy and divine prophet, Jesus, also known as justice, also known as love made manifest,
Islam.
also known in these modern times as our prophet Noble Ali,
Islam.
who came to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Islam?
Islam.
All is well.
All is
Truly.
Islam.